Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tiny Brains podcast. We're going to be going over some of the biggest stories in XR from the last week. I'm Kev, I'm the CEO of Tiny Brains, and with me I have Peter, the Brigadier of Brains at Tiny Brains. Say hi, Peter.
Hello.
So we're going to dive straight in. The first one we've got is the Varjo Aero. Now, Varjo recently announced their XR4 headset, which wowed a lot of people and received some positive reactions. This news was not so positive. Pete?
Yes, so their consumer headset, which they launched in 2021, the Varjo Aero, has now been discontinued officially. So they're out of stock on their website. You could probably still pick some up from resellers wherever they may be, but essentially, yeah, they're not making any more. They're out of stock on their website, so that's it. They're done and dusted. If you do already own an Aero or you were thinking about buying one from a reseller, you don't have to wait too much at the moment because they're going to support it until the end of 2025. So got a couple more years.
I mean, there was a lot of love for the Aero during the XR4 reveal. They did not a live chat, but a question and answer session, and people were asking about an Aero 2, a successor, and they were like, nope. And now this suddenly killing it off, pour one out for Varjo Aero.
Yeah, they've said they're focusing purely on the XR4 because that comes in three varieties: there's a base model of a focal edition and a professional edition or something along those lines. So they're focusing on the manufacturing on that now. So bye bye Aero, which was
Which
it
is
was a good headset. I tested it and it it was the highest resolution you could get at the time. So it did look really good. And it had automatic IPD adjustment. So
it's another hardware manufacturer that's found an audience in enterprise struggling in the consumer market because Meta, basically. So there we have that. But onto more consumer. Is it consumer? Is it not hardware? Is it consumer? Is it not, Pete? Apple Vision Pro. Is it a consumer piece of hardware or is it not? What do you say?
I wouldn't say it's consumer at the moment.
Good, because consumers are going to be really disappointed with this news. So apparently, Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify are not going to bring their apps over to Vision Pro. Now, this doesn't mean you can't use their facilities,
Mhm.
but it will be browser based, which is like the least efficient way to use these platforms. But yeah, if it's not consumer hardware, doesn't really matter so much. If it is, boo. That's my take.
Well said, Kev. Well said. Yes. If you've got a if you're going to be ordering a Vision Pro and you're looking forward to playing Spotify, it's going to be a bit more of a long-winded process. Yeah, certainly.
But there is also the fact that Apple recently announced that Disney have signed an agreement to support the Vision Pro with a ton of 3D movies and whatever else. But my take on this, from what I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, is that it's not through Disney Plus. It's through purchasing the individual movies from an app store from Apple.
Uh, I've not looked into that part, so I could
That's
not confirm.
okay. That's what I heard, which means essentially you're going to be paying 4K HD UHD Blu-ray prices for a film in 3D on the Vision Pro rather than your handy already paid for subscription, which is
If
how,
that
how do you
is the
say
case,
how do you say gouging nicely?
there's no way of gouging nicely.
So yeah, if is it a consumer piece of hardware? If it is, this is not very good news. But there's always that middle ground where the Vision Pro seems to be between consumer, not consumer, consumer, not consumer. So
But you're probably not fussed anyway because the Vision Pro pre-orders are already started. They began last week, so if you've already ordered one, you probably don't care if there's an app for Netflix.
true. You can just watch it on your Meta Quest instead. Um, moving on.
480p.
More hardware news. This time Magic Leap back on the scene.
They never went away.
They did. They went under a rock. Anyway, after their immense amounts of layoffs and going away and hiding under a rock, they've got a ton more money. Good for them.
Yeah, they keep managing it, don't they? They're the company that somehow, in some fashion, manages to raise ridiculous amounts of money. They did it originally with Google and I think Alibaba
Disney.
or some, all back in what 2016, sort of those early years, and then Saudi Arabia was like, oh yeah, like a bit of this, and they've been dumping money into the company ever since. I think this first started in 2018 with 400 million, and then it was 2022 that they dumped in another 450 million. And now the recent one, which is another 590 million. So essentially, Saudi Arabia owns Magic Leap. They have a majority stake in it.
I'm not surprised. Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think Magic Leap are too worried about their near-term future. Uh,
But with a company that has had in excess of $250 million put into it, they should probably have a product at some point.
they've got the Magic Leap too. That's been a resounding success.
Is it though? Is it?
Well, it was better than the Magic Leap one.
Yes, it was. Um, but was it better than a HoloLens 2? Mm,
Some say yes, some say no. Yeah,
I
that
bet
was
you, I bet you Microsoft didn't spend.
that was a couple of years ago though. This year, unless they come out with some new hardware this year or maybe next year.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I bet you Microsoft didn't spend $250 million on HoloLens 2. Um, but there we go. But yes, I would expect Magic Leap to with this new injection, I would expect they have a product, and this is to refine it to get it on to get it ready for market. They have something new. This is make terms for this is money is being injected to get form factor finished and finalized and get it onto product, get on store shelves, either enterprise side or consumer. Don't know, but that's what I reckon is this is a push. Looking at the Vision Pro to say we have something that's going to appeal. Let's get it to market.
Yes, they have been B2B focused, so maybe consumer might be the next direction they might go in. The original founder Ronnie always said that it was always the third iteration that was going to be consumer, so maybe that might happen.
So a Vision Pro beta for $500 coming at the end of this year. Go Magic Leap, go. Anyway, moving on, we've got some gaming news. So everybody loves Nintendo 3DS, right? I mean, I loved it from launch. Nobody else seemed to. But later in its later years, it did gain a life of its own, a fresh lease on life, and became one of Nintendo's biggest platforms, ultimately, which is great. And I'm sure there's many people watching this that, like myself, has an endless supply of Nintendo 3DS games that you love to play or have still gotten the shrink wrapper because we don't have enough time to play all the games we buy. But now you don't even need a 3DS anymore. Pete?
Well, you still need a 3DS to copy, but yes,
Legally.
Citra VR. It's a VR app based on Citra, which is a 3DS emulator that you've been able to get for PC for I think a couple of years now. And Citra VR's creator is Amanda Watson, who used to work for Oculus. She was the person behind the Airlink. So she's left Oculus Meta, and this is her. I think it's her first sort of major project, bringing Nintendo 3DS games to natively to Quest, because that's the main thing. Citra you could actually use on PC and stream it to your Quest, but Citra VR is a native app for Quest. You have to sideload it. It's only going to be available on GitHub and SideQuest, but you can sideload it and then put your 3DS games on there. If you've got a hacked 3DS to connect to your PC and dump the games from, and by no means go anywhere near the online ROMs that are out there.
Yes, indeed. Emulation is illegal unless you own an original copy of the game. You are allowed to copy, at least here in the UK, rules will vary across the world, but here in the UK, if you own an original physical version of the game, you are allowed to emulate that software on other devices. How you get from that original copy to your emulation is a bit of a minefield. And of course, Nintendo like to navigate that minefield fairly regularly shutting down pretty much everything they possibly can. Now, there is a very famous emulator, Dolphin, which emulates GameCube very well. And I believe someone actually brought that to VR during the Rift days. I don't know if that's still going, if I'm honest. But Nintendo were never able to shut that down. So whether or not they're able to shut down Citra, I don't know.
Well, Citra's still been going for a while. I know Dolphin tried to get onto Steam, but Nintendo put the hammer down on that one. So, but also remember that Citra or Citra VR, you can actually play. People still make homebrew games for 3DS, so you can still do that, and you can still play. I know everyone's going to want to play Zelda and Mario Kart, but there are still homebrew games that you can play free of charge with no legal ramifications.
So go that route.
Exactly.
That's the best way. Stay safe. Anyway, on our last news of the week is another piece of gaming news, which was the launch of Bulletstorm VR.
Go now, bad luck! Come on!
The reception to Bulletstorm VR has also been pretty poor. Pete, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I've not played it yet, so I can't confirm or deny what these reports are saying, but everyone is pretty much saying that the visuals don't look great on Quest, whether it's a Quest 2 or Quest 3. There's audio glitches, there's frame rate drops. Some people have had issues where the game's completely crashed and they've had to restart their entire progress from whatever level they were on. So essentially, it is full of bugs.
And this is after a not insignificant delay. Was it 3 months, 2 months? It got delayed from 2023 to till now. So yeah, it's another relatively high profile IP coming to VR in a not great form. Anyone want to ring that bell for cash in? Shame.
They're going to have to do something to save it if they want to get any money from this. Really, I think apart from the early adopters, nobody's going to be buying this now.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. Maybe PSVR 2 ported down the line.
Oh yeah, because all those PSVR 2 ports have done really well at the moment.
So anyway, with that, we're going to wrap up today's podcast. So thank everyone for joining. If you want to reach out to us to discuss anything from this podcast or any other topics that are happening in XR right now, we'd be more than happy to chat to you anytime. You can reach out in the links below. I assume they'll be in the description, Pete.
They'll be at the end. They'll be at the end. Don't you worry.
There you go. Probably somewhere around here. Okay. Thanks very much for watching, everybody.